Guys, it's Rachel. How are you? Today's video is going to be about to Binky or not to Binky, whatever you guys call them, Binkies, Nooks, or Passy, or whatever. It's about pacifiers, basically. I've been having kind of like an internal debate with myself about whether or not we want to use a pacifier for Skylar. Reason being is because I do plan on breastfeeding exclusively if possible, which exclusively means you strictly breastfeed. Like you can use a breast pump and put it in a bottle, and you can bottle feed, but it's always breast milk. Some people only exclusively feed for like the first couple months, and then they alternate between formula and breastfeeding. But we'll get into that. I'll do a different video on breastfeeding later, and we'll get into that later. But my biggest concern with the pacifier started when I read, I can't remember if somebody told me or if I read it somewhere, but apparently if you use a pacifier and you're breastfeeding, there's a chance that after a pacifier the baby won't latch anymore. And even though you can express milk and put it into a bottle and they'll still, do breast milk through a bottle, you lose that that bonding experience, and you lose that ability to actually feed from the breast. So that was like my big concern, and I was really excited because we got like a ton of pacifiers at our baby shower. Apparently, like one of the really good brands is Nook. And it's because it's orthopedic approved, because supposedly using a pacifier also can mess up the teeth alignment, and so these are supposed to, I guess, not do that. But I had an example of, like, this one is the Nook, and this one is just like a really cheap, like, Dollar General brand. And, I mean, they're kind of different, but the only difference I could really tell in the actual like nipple part was that this one is a little bit bigger, but these are recommended. Nook is actually like recommended by AAP, which is the American Association of Pediatrics. So who am I to say? And then we got this really cool clip. I don't know why I had that in here. I guess just to show you guys because it's pretty neat. And then, of course, another Nook Binky. But anyways, so I went on some different websites to get pros and cons of using a pacifier. I originally tried to find something in What to Expect When You're Expecting. I don't know if you guys have this version. This is the one that I have. I'm not sure what year it came out, but you can tell like the girl looks different than the older version. Like, this is the updated version of What to Expect When You're Expecting. But yeah, surprisingly, I couldn't find anything about pacifiers in here at all. Like, I checked the index, and pacifier isn't even a word in the index. So I was really surprised by that. I was kind of disappointed. But I did manage to find something about pacifiers in this book, which this book, if you haven't heard of it, it's actually from the American Association or whatever of Pediatrics. So, and it's called Your Baby's First Year. It's written by a doctor. The book right here on the binding says that in the U.S. it's $6.99, Canada $8.99. I actually found this at Goodwill for 50 cents. So I scooped it up as soon as I saw it, because I was like, yeah. I did find something about pacifiers in here, but I'll just read it really quick so I don't, bore you guys or whatever. But it basically just says that many parents have strong feelings about whether or not to use a pacifier, and pacifying a baby with an object. It's meant to satisfy your baby's non-eating sucking needs, not to replace or delay meals. So offer a pacifier only after or between feedings when you're sure that they're not hungry. Some babies use a pacifier to fall asleep. The trouble is a lot of them will wake up when it falls out of their mouth. And when they're older and they have the hand coordination to find it, that wouldn't be a problem. But if they're younger, then they may cry for you to do it for them. Blah, blah, blah. And, I mean, that's pretty much it. But I had, like I said, I went on different websites to get pros and cons. And to me, personally, it really seems like the cons outweigh the pros. Like, I was already pretty dead set on not doing a pacifier, but I thought, you know, hey, I'll look into it, I'll do the research, I'll see if it's really, you know, is it really that bad to use a pacifier. But we'll just start with the pros, because, I mean, really, guys, there's less of them than, one of the pros is that the American Academy of Pediatrics, the AAP, they claim that the using a pacifier has like a protective effect against SIDS, which is sudden infant death syndrome. But what I found really weird about that theory that they have is they couldn't say why they thought it had a protective effect. And also they said that for the protective effect, you use the Binky only when laying them down to go to sleep or for a nap. You don't use it if they're already sleeping or if they're already down, which didn't make a whole lot of sense to me because I'm not very educated on sudden infant death syndrome. Maybe some of you guys are. I don't really know a whole lot about it. It is what it is. I mean, it's sudden infant death. It's kind of one of those unexplained or, you know, they suffocate. But I don't understand how there's a protective effect if you're simply using the pacifier to put them down for a nap. That seems, and they don't use it while they're sleeping because it says don't use it while it's sleeping. So that didn't really make sense to me. That seems more like it would be pacifying to get them to go to sleep, not that it would have any sort of protective effect. But I could be wrong. You guys can post and comment, I mean, what you think about that. That was another reason, my main reason actually for this video is because I want responses from you guys. Like, if you have personal experience or, you know a little bit more about this than me, or you have an opinion on it, just post down in the comments and let me know. Like I said, I am a first-time mom, so I mean, this is all really new to me. The other pro is it helps pacify a crying infant. But I kind of had a rebuttal for that pro, though, because from what I've heard from my older sister, which she has a 2.5-year-old son, my nephew, he's too cute, and she's also pregnant. She's 30 weeks and 3 days. So, but from what I've heard from her, babies need to learn to self-soothe, whether it be by like making noises or sucking on their fist or on their thumb. They need to be able to self-soothe, and that's like apparently a really important thing that they need to learn how to do. And according to my sister, a lot of babies that use pacifiers don't learn how to self-soothe, tongue-tied, because they get the pacifier. So when you go to wean them off of the pacifier, you find that, I mean, they're just up and crying and crying and crying because they don't know how to calm themselves down without that pacifier. Which my nephew, who's 2.5, he's never had a pacifier, ever. He didn't get one in the hospital, he didn't get one at home, and he never cried for one. Like, a lot of babies, like the book was saying, like they'll wake up in the middle of the night because they need it put back in their mouth or whatever, and Braden never had that problem. So, I mean, I guess it's just kind of a personal choice thing. You guys can let me know what you think. And then the third pro was that apparently it's easier to wean your baby from a pacifier than it is to wean them from sucking on their fist or sucking on their thumb, which for me, I'm not really sure if I got a pacifier when I was a baby or when I was an infant or not, but I do know that I was a thumb sucker for sure. I was a hardcore thumb sucker up until I was like 6 years old, and my grandma did like the hot sauce and all that. And I don't remember what actually made me stop sucking my thumb, but yeah, I definitely did suck my thumb up until I was like 5 or 6. So I mean, I don't really see the problem with thumb sucking.